أرض أندلس الخضراء حيينا لعل روحا من الحمراء تحيينا.
In this series, we are presenting a rare first-hand account of the events leading up to the fall of Granada at the hands of the Christian Iberian Crusades, known as Reconquista, or the Reconquest of the Iberian Peninsula, by the unified efforts of the kingdoms of northern Spain in cooperation with the southern French and the kingdom state of Portugal. The Christians of the north labeled their crusades as a reconquest, seeking vengeance from the Muslims. They were supported militarily by the French kingdoms, who feared the strength of the Muslims of Al-Andalus, who had reached southern France at the peak of their expeditions. The Christian forces were also supported spiritually by the Pope and the Church, which saw this crusade as a religious war and as an indelible right to spread Christianity. These Christian kingdoms of northern Spain trace their history back to the Visigoths. The Visigoths were Germanic people that settled in the southern part of Gaul in modern-day France, and then in the Roman-controlled region of Hispania. After fighting the Romans, the Visigoths ruled Hispania, and they were defeated by the Muslims, who were led by Tariq ibn Ziyad. After King Roger was killed in the Battle of Guadalete in 711 Common Era, a Visigoth nobleman by the name of Pelagius fled to the north and founded the kingdom of Asturias around the year of 718 of the Common Era. Tariq ibn Ziyad and Usamah ibn Nusayr freed the locals from the brutality of the Visigoths and unified the region under Islam under the rule of the Khalifa of Bani Umayyah. Returning back to the book featured in this series, the stories of this book are told through an anonymous noble mujahid, a fighter, from Granada, who details the time period under the leadership of Bani Nasr and Al-Andalus, which is now modern-day Spain and Portugal. The events documented in this book span over the 9th and 10th centuries of the Hijri calendar, so approximately from 882 Hijri or 1477 in the Common Era until 947 Hijri or 1540 in the Common Era. These accounts are unique as the author was a native to Granada, possibly a noble from amongst the elites of the city-state according to some researchers. Nonetheless, it's clear from the experiences and events shared by the author that he was an Andalusian of status in Granada who fought to protect the Muslim lands from falling to the Christian armies. It is also evident from his narratives that he had a deep concern for the well-being of the people of Granada and tried to rally the people to defend Islam and the lands of the Muslims. He also had political insight into the activities of the ruling family of Banu Nasr, and he provides us with an overview into the daily life at that time in Granada. He summarized much of the details in order to present these events as a lesson for the Muslims with regards to the fall of Andalus. He doesn't shy away from speaking about and presenting his views. Likewise, he narrates the perspectives of the laymen in the city and the types of things that they would say, and also the rumors that were spread amongst the people during the time. He also spoke about how troublemakers would spread fitna, or tribulations, amongst the people and the society as a whole. This valuable book gives us a rare and unique look at the final days of Granada. What led up to its fall, the fight against the Reconquista before the fall of Granada by approximately 15 years. Much of the details mentioned by the author's first-hand accounts are not recorded anywhere else, as it is based on his eyewitness accounts that he recorded and personally witnessed. The Egyptian historian Ustad Muhammad Annan considered this book to be a sole witness to the events of the last days of Bani Nasr, and Bani Nasr, they were also known as Bani Ahmar. Annan, he relied heavily on these narratives in his book Tarikh al-Andalus. Similarly, another aspect which makes this book unique and historically valuable is what some Orientalists have pointed out, that due to the burning and destruction of Islamic books and Muslim literature, which was carried out by the Christians after the fall of Granada, the survival of this manuscript deems that it is an important book and it is historically significant. The author of the book is anonymous by his choice. We can say to some degree of certainty that the author intended to hide his identity, possibly out of fear of being persecuted by the Spanish Inquisition. Some historians, shortly after his time, utilized his writings but did not name him, indicating that it is not just an issue of his name missing from a single manuscript and that the author intended, but rather that the author intended to remain anonymous. Other references, either from manuscripts through the ages or references from other historians, also do not provide any indication that his identity was known. The previous mentioned well-known Egyptian historian Annad wrote extensively about Al-Andalus, and he stated his opinion, which was that the author was likely a noble from the people of Granada who remained after the fall of the city and was forced into converting to Christianity whilst concealing his Islam from the Inquisition, who would brutally torture and murder those who remained Muslim or Jewish, or even those whom they suspected of falsely converting to Christianity. The Inquisition labeled Muslims who converted to Christianity as Moriscos, and they labeled Jews as conversos. This book was first published in Europe in 1863 by the German Orientalist Müller in Göttingen. Some decades later, in 1925, it was republished in Arabic by Al-Manar printing press in Egypt, appended to the book Riwayat Akhir Bani Saraj by Viscount de Chateaubriand and translated into Arabic by Al-Amir Shakib Arsalan. This publication, originally in French, was based on a single manuscript located in Europe without the name of the author. The Lebanese Orientalist Alfred Avram Bustani, who was an advisor on Oriental affairs to the Spanish General Francisco Franco, published the book through Al-Araish Publications in Morocco, which was subsequently translated into Spanish by Carlos Quiros Rodriguez. In 1984, the book was republished by Dr. Muhammad Radwan Ad-Daya, based on the existing publications without a proper tahqiq or verification and checking of the text with the actual manuscript. So subsequently, the second edition was published in 2002 after the muhaqqiq did a proper checking and verification of the text with the available manuscript and added beneficial annotations and research. The only known existing manuscript of this book appears in Al-Majmu' or collection in the Leiden University, known as Al-Nuskha Al-Wahida or Al-Nuskha Al-Farida in Arabic, which means the only existing or the one existing manuscript. And in English, the technical term is unicum. And there's no argument that this surviving manuscript is of great importance. Likewise, an important fact concerning manuscripts must be mentioned here, and it is that the survival of a sole manuscript is not an indication of the importance or lack thereof of a particular text. There are numerous texts which have had tremendous importance historically, either at the time of the author or thereafter, even though there is only one existing manuscript found to date. Many historians refer to this work, indicating that other manuscripts were in circulation since the author's time period. The manuscript is very clear. It contains 21 folios written in beautiful Maghribi script with 22 lines per page. It has marginal notes made by the scribe, which in Arabic is called hashia. Likewise, there are additional notes made by an Orientalist in pencil. For this series, we are using the chapter titles, which were added by the Muhaqqiq, Dr. Muhammad Radwan. As we present this narrative in the series, we'll add some thoughts which clarify or explain certain issues that we see necessary for the video. Likewise, in order to make this series easier to follow, we will not explain every single detail. Furthermore, as we present the author's narrative in English, we are not doing a literal or word-for-word translation, as this would make this series excessive and lengthy. So we decided to translate the meanings to flow better in English, and also we will not translate every part of the book, but what fits into the flow of the general narrative as told and narrated by the author.